Okay, so effulgence and intensification. Over the years, the original name became a problem in our work because while it was called the white heat, it didn't have any color or temperature. And more recently, in order to get closer to the felt sense of this term, we've been referring to it as effulgence and intensification. And I don't know if any of you have looked up the definition at ta.org, but it's a little bit awkward. And so I propose to define this as the tender, porous, burning communion with all things, which results from the ever-deepening fusion of the stillness of consciousness and the movement of phenomena. Yeah. The ever-deepening fusion between the stillness, consciousness, and the movement of phenomena. Stillness and movement. Now, from the, I guess for lack of a better word, perspective of our limitless self, it has nothing it needs to do, nothing it needs to create or manifest, nothing it needs to clarify or realize, nothing it needs to amend or adjust, nothing it needs to heal or integrate. Why? Because it is already, always, everything. But from the perspective of our limited self, there's lots to do. Lots we want to create and manifest, or to clarify and realize, to amend and adjust, to heal and integrate. So we are stillness and unboundedness on the one hand, and motion and desire on the other. And in this whole being realization, we recognize that this limitless and conscious nature is not really fundamentally separate from all the parts of the limited changing motion of our lives. And over time, as our awakening advances, that non-separateness starts to feel more like a kind of communion, which, as it deepens, can begin to intensify. Now, to me, yeah, it feels like a overflowing of fullness in the midst of daily living. And this fullness feels like an extension of Source. It's not really what I wouldn't say it's a spark from the great divine fire. It is that fire itself, but burning as you and me. And I'd say this effulgence is an important element to this work, which we don't discuss frequently enough. First, it's an expression of the non-separateness that is the central principle of whole being realization. And what I mean by that is that when every little piece of the flux of daily life is seen in the light of its non-difference from every other piece, there is, as I said, a kind of communion that happens that can feel like, to me, enchantment or really deep intimacy. And secondly, it's also an important term because Sanyal, in his own writings, has said that without the arrival of this intense experience for him, he would never have begun teaching. What he called the white heat was the final piece that was missing in his awakened life. And after its dramatic arrival and on a pilgrimage to Ramana Maharshi's ashram in India, he began teaching. And the 16 years that followed the seminal arrival of the way produced a body of knowledge known as Waking Down to Mutuality. So inescapably, everything that we now know as Trillium Awakening was made possible by the arrival of this white heat, effulgence, and intensification originally. Yeah. So effulgence. Let's say this. The great tantric teacher Daniel Odia, in his commentary on the Yoga Spandakarika, describes this deeply embodied awakening as the burning fire of love, that is, the consciousness of the unity of all things. The burning fire of love, that is, the consciousness of the unity of all things. It kind of says it, doesn't it? And with respect to this work, the burning fire of love, well, there is a kind of ardent and passionate quality to this work, don't you find? We're calling this effulgence and intensification. And you know, intensity is one of the hallmarks of what Martin Buber called an I-thou relationship to the world, along with the qualities of directness, presentness, and ineffability. The word intensity characterizes the sacramental sensitivity that he was trying to describe. Yeah, so I'd like now to take some minutes to see if we can settle into and have some taste of that communion. And this guided meditation is with thanks to Dakila Chongyalpa, who presented it previously. So let's just move around a little bit, get settled in wherever you're sitting. Be at ease as you're relaxing into your body and just notice what's around you. What do you see? What do you hear? What's in your neck of the woods just now? And as you get settled and comfortable, just close your eyes. So bring your attention to your body. Yeah. So just notice whether you're on the ground or on the floor or in a chair. Notice how gravity is like Mother Earth's love for you. Gently holds you in a perpetual embrace. no matter how or where you are seated. The earth is holding you. There is relationship here. Feel this relationship. Notice the breath that is coming in. Expanding your belly and chest. Feel all the oxygen and nitrogen that is spreading throughout your body, nourishing every cell. And as you're exhaling, feel all those gases leaving your body and entering the air around you. That carbon dioxide you just generated is being used by all the plants around you during photosynthesis. This is harmony. This is what interdependence looks like. This is what communion feels like. All of the oxygen that keeps us alive comes from the tree forests. And the kelp forests and the plankton. From the lakes around you. Just as the carbon dioxide that we exhale nourishes all of those same green life forms. Imagine all the places very near and very far where that oxygen you just breathed has come from. The Indian Ocean, the Amazon basin, the endless miles of taiga forest in North Central Asia. trees in the park in your town. Plants in your garden and your house. We couldn't survive more than a few minutes without oxygen. And it is provided unconditionally, effortlessly, by Mother Earth. This source of life comes from outside ourselves. All of the species that make their home on this planet receive the same care and nourishment. Some of us inhale oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide. And others do the reverse. And yet, here we all are, receiving life as we inhale and offering life as we exhale. Whether we mean to or not, all of us transfer energy and nutrients to each other. We participate effortlessly in this vast ecosystem. So now let's let ourselves be consciously, intentionally a part of this. Now, as you inhale, imagine you're breathing in the earth's compassion. And as you exhale any softness, tenderness, gratitude you may have felt during this exercise. Inhale the world's compassion. Exhale gratitude. Inhale compassion. Exhale gratitude. Now let's continue this for a minute. Okay, so let's emerge slowly now. Just bring your attention to your feet. And bring your attention to your hands and what they're touching. And maybe move your head around a little bit. Slow, deep breaths. And whenever it's comfortable, you can open your eyes. Okay, so I think maybe we'll do some breakout rooms now, and we can talk about this experience, this taste of communion and intimacy. Okay, so as I was saying, before that guided meditation, I was talking about Martin Buber and intensity of feelings. And I believe it was Cece who years ago said there's no such thing as good and bad feelings. All emotions are just energy. Emotion is energy in motion. And concern among spiritual seekers about having too much feeling is kind of misplaced, because the awareness that can recognize non-separateness is a feeling awareness. It's deep and rarefied and subtle and tender and perceptive. So please honor your feelings, honor your tenderness. I think the real deficit in the life of the spirit is not being too deeply feeling. The real mistake is believing that dispassion is the gold standard of spiritual maturity. So this grace, this effulgence, is a part of a deeply embodied awakening. And as Terry Patton, a teacher I really revere, said, embodied awakening reveals intensities of love of all the disparate parts of our lives, and at the same time opens us to the mysterious and unknowable depths beyond. Yeah, that really encapsulates the depth and the mystery of this experience, and the ineffability, really. You can't really find words to express it. I think the biblical expression, the peace that passeth all understanding, starts to get at the silent mystery of this reality, where there really isn't any place for the hubris of certainty. Now, I mentioned intensities of love in that quote from Terry Patton, but the thing is, if this intensity is of experience can be called love, somehow it feels to me like it's a kind of transpersonal love. Um, it feels both intense and in some odd way neutral. To me, it's more like abiding um, in a field of love than it is having the feeling of love. This effulgence can be both a state and a stage, to use some integral language, a state being temporary and a stage being permanent. Um, the intensity of this communion can sometimes seem to rise and fall. But ultimately, it seems to me, it's not so much a series of wondrous experiences as it is an ongoing recognition or a knowingness of a reality which is never not so. Yeah, so naturally the question arises, is there something to do? Some kind of practice that can make this a more likely or a more fully felt reality? Well, since transmission is the foundation of the inner transformation that occurs here, maybe we should say something about that. I'm sure at some point you may have heard someone say, everyone's always transmitting all the time, which is not true. What is true is everyone is always what? Emitting or broadcasting or radiating all the time. That's true. But in this work, we use the word transmission to mean something quite specific. When we say transmission, we're referring to a subtle event whereby the radiant, awakened, and embodied condition gets communicated non-verbally by means of resonance effect. There's a certain energetic signature to this work. And this transmission is not unusual. We're not alone in this understanding. Transmission as an activator of interchange is really common to many Pan-Asian traditions. Amaji and Mother Mira use transmission by touch. Swami Muktananda used transmission by peacock feather. And most common is transmission by glance, which is what you find here. And so we use gazing as a practice that we engage in to intensify the transmission by taking the mental dimension out of it. And there's just being to being meeting. And some teachers in their private session work include some eyes closed meditation time as well, because we find that that silent, fluid internal realm transmission is free from some of the pressures of the subject-object field and can be even more catalytic. So one thing you could do if you're looking for a practice is use the gazing videos at ta.org with those teachers who are aflame with this effulgent reality. And I'm finding as in this work that the embodiment element is central to this radiant and intense fusion that we've been talking about today. And as an embodiment practice, you frequently heard teachers say to lean into the sensual delight of being alive. So what does that mean practically? Well, when you get out of bed in the morning, start your day, we have to pee so bad. Pay attention and notice how good it feels as that bladder is relieved. When you stand in the shower and the hot water first hits your back, close your eyes and take a moment to actually feel how delicious this is. And savor the sigh that rises in your throat. This coursing water element exemplifies the sacred feminine dimension of reality with its fluidity and its heat and its mysterious transformative power. See this as the goddess caressing your utterly sacred body. And afterwards, notice the pleasure of hundreds or maybe it's thousands of tiny cotton fingers on the terry cloth towel passing over your skin as you dry yourself off. Notice the massive bubbles in the water in your cupped hands under the sink faucet. They're all perfect, shining little hemispheres of different sizes and different lifespans, appearing and disappearing. And you sit down at the breakfast table, absorb the just right temperature of and the flavor of your morning coffee or tea. If it's still early, go outside. First couple hours after dawn or the hours just before sunset are really the prime time for taking a walk and communing with the natural world. If you don't have time for a walk, just feel the liveliness of the morning air. Just take a good, slow, deep breath. And if you are walking, what I'm talking about is being alone. No earbuds, no music, no podcast. Just you and your ancestral home, the natural world. And I think it doesn't really have to be some remote wild lands. Just go out and feel the quiet and notice the slight breeze on your skin and take a good look at those trees. They're probably the largest life forms you'll encounter on your walk. And so sense them, feel them, appreciate them as you walk by. Because they are just as much subjects as they are objects. Reach up, touch some leaves, whisper, thank you. You're beautiful. I love you. And while we're talking about sensual delight of being alive, we can't really leave out the ecstasy of orgasm. And we do have a positive view of sexuality and its bodily grounding effect in our awakening lives. But it's in the same way we view pretty much all things physical. Orgasm is hard to miss when it's happening, but all these other little subtler things I'm talking about, these quiet sensualities, can be missed. So that's why I'm mentioning them all here. Yeah, so, for many of us, music holds a particularly enchanting power. So at some point during your day, listen to a favorite piece of music and close your eyes and feel its effect on your body. And if you feel inclined, start moving to the music. Dancing is inherently erotic and life affirming. So let yourself be energized by this rhythmic movement. The Vijnana by Rava is a tantric text whose title translated into English means something like the terror and the joy of realizing oneness. And it documents 112 meditation processes. And back in its day, it introduced the idea of these little micro meditations throughout the day that I've been making reference to. And one of those verses of that text says, "The yogi who relishes music and song to the extent he merges with it becomes filled with unparalleled happiness, attains heightened awareness, and experiences oneness." So all of these possibilities, these embodiment practices, and many others are available all day long They're all on-ramps to this effulgence and intensification freeway. Now, as a practice, this leaning into the sensual delight of your life does need to be intentional. But at the same time, it should be effortless because, it's really just a matter of not taking for granted all the bodily sensations that are already there. So our actual physical bodies are an on-ramp to this effulgent freeway. And the thing is, though, so are our emotional bodies. How does it feel to be here is also a key entry point in the cultivation of this intimacy with all things. As you know, we recommend warmly welcoming all those feelings you spent most of your life avoiding, right? And if you can't fully welcome discomfort, maybe you can give it a little permission, say a tentative yes to it. Be like water, says the Tao Te Ching. Similarly, we say allow, accept, surrender, embrace, trust these feelings. Embrace the regret, the frustration, the anger, the shame. Trust the delight, the excitement, the joy, the fulfillment. Trust all of it. Embrace it. Let it all soak in deeply, like water. And when exploring the contours of our inner emotional bodies, we found it useful to notice the accompanying bodily sensations while reliving these intense emotions. Kabir Helminski has called this sensation the threshold between outer and inner worlds. Picking up and staying with these bodily sensations, feeling them all the way through, however or wherever they go, as well as along the way noticing the thoughts, memories, impressions, intuitions that come along with these, facilitates the depressurizing of these contractions in our bodies. And that's not really metaphorical. It's tissue level cellular memory that we are now bathing and redeeming. Yeah, so these are some physical and emotional starting points in this exploration. And the whole point of practices like these is that over time, an experience from a practice can become a disposition. And over more time, that disposition can become an identity. And in more time, that identity can become a permanent recognition or a knowingness. And in this way, the savor and relish that we started out with, savor the sensual delight of being alive, can in time, the savor and relish can become hallow and extol your growing communion with the world. And in more time, that hallow and extol can become bless and sanctify all that you perceive. And to me, this is where the farther reaches of a deeply embodied, awakened life are taking us. Maybe I should have said deeply embodied awakening life, because I haven't found an end yet. It just keeps going. That's where these awakening lives, I believe, are headed. Yeah, so we're a little early to stop. Do we want to try some more breakout rooms? You want to try a discussion here as a group about anything that you might want to kick around some more? Something from something I said earlier that we didn't spend too much time with, or questions, or... Okay, good. I got something from Kathleen coming up.
Okay. So yeah, when you were talking about, the feelings and emotions that arise, and you said the thoughts with them, and that's, I wanted you to talk more about that, I guess, because I've been kind of like trained to try to just feel the sensations in your body and let go of the thoughts, like, like not to trust it, the thoughts, like memory is never accurate, say.
Right.
And how not to get, and like for a while there, I was always afraid of going back to a certain stage of my life. And, I had all these therapists saying, that's impossible.
Yes. Yeah,
but anyway, so when you said the thoughts, I'm like, oh, that's different than what I've been hearing. I've been, all this time trying to drop the thoughts. So.
Yep. You don't have to try to drop that. Well, I didn't phrase that well. I would still say the bodily sensations are principal. So this is at least 60-40, maybe 70-30. Be with the sensations. You may notice thoughts that merge, or feelings, emotions, but they're not shouldn't be the primary. That shouldn't take up most of the bandwidth. Should be staying with the sensation. Put it that way.
Right.
There may be accompanying thoughts, feelings, emotions, intuitions, or whatever. But what I was trying to emphasize is the bodily dimension of it is a good place to start and to follow through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Because I'm just working on like some bodily things that I don't like feeling, right?
I know. Me too.
Yeah. Yeah, letting it be there. And then the thought that will come in with those, because that's usually the thought that makes me, because the sensations aren't so bad, but it's the thought I have about the sensation that gets me all worked up, which is the emotions. Yeah. So,
yes.
Yeah.
So for you, I would say not 70-30, make it 90-10. We all have different body minds, and I was speaking from my own experience, and mine is, I'm in a minority of most other things, so I shouldn't assume that much about my experience. Yeah, so thanks for that question. Let's clear things up here,
And thank you for your response too.
Yeah. What does the group have to say? What is your experience about following sensations and thoughts come along with, or are distant relatives and aren't really that important? Or yeah, Annalena?
I really love the enhancement of the senses as a means of bringing myself into that sense of presence throughout the day, and use that word mini meditations, like sort of taking a read throughout the day periodically of, what my body happens to be doing or experiencing, what's arising in the field of emotion. And the other thing I'll add is I noticed you said trust emotions. And as a tantric type, that's certainly been a major part of my process. But I did also have to counterbalance it as my confessional. I'm still recovering in a way around eating disorder. And there can be an exaggerated sense of fear, like a cream puff. Certain instances, if I see a cream cream puff, I can totally freak out. And it's fear. And no, you know what? It's not good for me to follow that fear. I know that that's not real. It's a fiction. And it's not something I'm going to move into. And I worked with Sandra, who's been my supervisor now many years, you know, in the capacity, and I've done somatic therapy to diminish feeling or somehow take a step back or maybe not make it trustworthy can sometimes be very appropriate.
Great. Thank you. Another amendment will add to my constitution. I can easily use 25 amendments, I'm sure.
Overall, I appreciate the approach and use it all the time.
Yeah, that's one thing that's really common to this work is trust the guidance of your body. And if you feel it all the way through, it usually comes to a place of ease or expansion or release or something along those lines. Yeah, Phil?
Yeah, thanks. For me, it's the thoughts about what I'm feeling that are really that make my whatever I'm experiencing, especially if it's pain. You know, basically aging is an experience finding new pains, and that becomes the issue that I really, oh, it's because I'm making this a catastrophe. That's the problem. You know, trying to learn how to go into the pain in such a way that I'm not fighting it. Seems to help. But I'm sort of in a place of trying to figure that out. But anyway, my experiences of our thoughts can be really something that we have to pay attention to.
Thank you. Yes, true. A third voice, mending. Thank you. I find that too. And relaxing into physical discomfort is a challenge. And breathing, I find, is really important for me, at least. If I can breathe through something slowly and deeply, it's if it's painful physically, it's easier to just embrace. Mickey.
I had a similar situation with like Phil, but maybe not quite as painful. I had a tattoo last month, and with every poke, the pain sort of drew me deeper and deeper into my body until pretty soon I was in a meditative state. I wasn't even there, but the pain was just making me more aware. But then thoughts did come up like, why are you doing this? Because your father never told you never to get a tattoo, or am I trying to express some part of myself? It was a mermaid because I love water. So the pain just kept taking me deeper and deeper into the reasons behind the getting of the tattoo. So it was quite delicious. In fact, I'm going to show everybody my tattoo. It's a mermaid. I don't know if you can see it. Anyway.
Thank you, Mickey.
So that was sensations, pleasure, and pain.
So good. Good pain. So what else? Any other part of this today that we want to open up? Yeah, Margie.
My focus has always been more on my internal experience than on my external experience. And a few times over the years, when some deep emotion came up that was really rooted in my body, something from childhood, and I've been able to actually stay with it, which sometimes takes more than one try, but to stay with it all the way, there'll come a point where thought arrives. And the thought, one time it was a thought of something my brother was saying to me when I was probably 3 or 4, and how I was taking that in. And when that happens and I allow that thought to just kind of unwind, then that pattern actually lifts out of my body to some extent, maybe completely. So that's a place where noticing the arisal of thoughts, the rising of thoughts, and staying with them, just like I was staying with the physical and emotional experience, has allowed things to be unraveled. And that may be partly because I came from a rather verbal family, but I thought that might be worth mentioning.
Yeah, thank you. It describes my experience too. Yeah, facts.
Yeah, that's a great presentation. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
So many good things in it. For me, luminescence or intensification can come in dreams as well, through a glance or a particular situation. There's whether it's in a dream or whether it's in a meditation or whether it's when you're out in nature or wherever it is, it's an intensification. There's a frequency change. It's like a vibrational shift takes place. And it seems to me that I've always associated luminescence and intensification with good feelings and light, and the intensification being of a good nature. But looking at it, it's also the other way around. The intensification can be very uncomfortable, and usually the intensification precedes the illumination. The illumination comes afterwards. Once you've gone through that intensification, the feelings or whatever it is that we're digesting. On the other side of that is the peace, is the luminescence, is the integration. So I'm seeing this from both sides now as a holistic process that's not just a luminescence where the vibrational quality that intensifies is blissful or connective or leading to greater wholeness or oneness, but it can also happen from the other direction where there's greater separation. The intensification is there because the connection is lost. And then the body wants to reconnect. And while that's going on, there's the frequency is not as pleasant. In fact, it's the opposite. And so I see this process of integration that we're involved in here in this work as becoming familiar with the intensification in both directions and the holding of it as a wholeness of who we are as human and divine. And one last thing, I really like the way that you laid it out, the disposition. Actually, practice, people think practice, but better than practice is a disposition towards something, which leads to an identity with it, which leads to a recognition. And I just love the way that you express that. And that's the way I hold it as well.
Beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, that's been my experience. And so other people find this expression, effulgence and intensification, can apply to the other end of the spectrum. Do you find that as well? Yeah, Margie. Yeah. So this is a useful description that goes both, like you said, both ends of this spectrum of experience. Thanks, Fax. Yeah. Oh, yes, Ralph, please.
Yeah. I just want to say what a delight to be here and to enjoy your presentation, Steve, and the company in our little breakout, and it was very sweet. And as Fax was speaking, and that he was sort of adding to the conversation we're having and to what you brought, Steve, I realized that, well, what's common to me is this metabolizing of experience, which is actually, I mean, and the way Margie was talking about, even an old experience that somehow is renewed and revisited in this moment, in this now, and then somehow opens up that peace, is that settling perhaps of something into this new body, in a way, new being that's arising as some other part comes home or lands or is fulfilled, even fulfilled in its arc, in this arc that took from that childhood moment. Perhaps there was a trajectory and it was somehow separate, but never lost. But then it comes home and is metabolized and becomes this wholeness of our renewed body, which is then inclusive, in my experience of the world body, which you described beautifully in that meditation that you enjoyed, and then of course the cosmic body and so on. So just delighting in our co-creation here. It's just sweet to be with everyone.
Oh, yes. I'm so glad you were here. That's fantastic. 2-minute summary of this trajectory of our lives from, I don't want to try to rephrase it. It's too good. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. You're a lovely catalyst for us all.
Oh, thank you. And Jane has something to kick in. What's happening, Jane?
I just wanted to acknowledge that you have a really beautiful gift of being able to express in words, but more the transmission and the feeling of effulgence and intensity and sacredness. And so my favorite parts of this time were really those times where you took a few minutes, and for me it was a satsang. It was your speaking was the teaching from the heart of what it is that you love the most. And I felt that and really treasure that. And I'm so glad that I took this with you, because with all of the wonderful qualities of the Trillium teachers and Waking Down, you of all people are the one who seems to really treasure the holiness of the moments of our life, not just the big experiences, but those little moments. And I just appreciate it and want to acknowledge that gift that you have.
Ooh, that one went in. Thank you. I'm just so, Someone said to me once, Steve, when I'm listening to you talk, I know you get pager when your voice starts cracking.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh God! Now this life, wow. Oh. Well, I have a couple minutes. Could I take the last couple minutes to say a few more things?
Yeah.
Okay. Because to me, this effulgence, this grace, this kind of what I talked about is brimming over of fullness in our ordinary moments, is to me the most precious feature of a deeply embodied awakening. And it's an intimacy with all things that it's just, the world feels close and dear and kindred and pregnant with meaning. And this is the end of the question about whether we're a physical body having a spiritual experience or a spiritual body having a physical experience. This, you're referring to, Jane, this very recognition that we are all just as much ensouled bodies as we are embodied souls. This is the blessedness of the sacred marriage of spirit and matter. And they say, and I agree with it, to become integrated in this way is why we came to this dense, constrained realm in the first place. In this world, I think the divination of the body happens not in spite of the precariousness of our life, but because of it. I believe it was Andrew Harvey said something like, the marriage of body and soul allows what was impossible for each on their own to naturally serve the holiest dreams of the other. Yeah, that guy can really say it, can't he? Well, so my prayer is that this day might support your explorations, and may you, as early explorers of this realm, report back to others in your lives the rigors and the splendors of one who's, yeah, I guess I can say this, one whose divinized body is becoming the bush that burns and is not consumed. Yeah. May it be so for each of us. So, thank you so much for being here. And
thank you, Steve.
I really, really love this day. Thanks. I'm glad I did it, even though I laid awake at 3 a.m. for 2 weeks, worrying, fussing about it.
It was wonderful.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Great seeing everyone.
Yeah, this
Beautiful, Steve.
is
Beautiful.
Thank you so much for
Thanks.
offering it.
Yes,
Yeah.
very welcome.
Thank you. Thanks, Steve.
Yep.
Thanks,
Bye for now. Bye.
3 a.m. is a precious
Bye.
time.
May you sleep well tonight.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Yes, in Sanskrit it actually has a name, Brahma Murti, certain hour of the 24-hour cycle. But it kind of drives me crazy when I can't get off these obsessive thoughts.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Are we done? I think we're done.
Well done. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.